Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. How are you doing? My name is Amanda Ellis. A very warm welcome to my channel. You're in for a treat today. I'm really looking forward to doing this video. It is part 2 of probably a series of work that I'm going to be doing, looking at the energy of King Arthur, Knights of the Round Table. It follows on from a video I put up 2 or 3 days ago on YouTube called, what was it called? Is William, i.e. Prince William, is William King Arthur, the return of the Knights of the Round Table? That video has gone down universally well. I've had so much confirmation from so many of you saying, yes, absolutely, this is ringing true. Can't wait for the next installment. This is the next installment, okay? I'm making this on Monday, the 26th of February, just for records. I don't know whether it will go up today. It might go up tomorrow. But anyway, it was recorded at the end of February 2024. And I feel as though I need to state that because events and energies are moving very fast. So it's interesting to look back on videos in months to come as well. And I think this will be one of them. I'm going to present new material today, linking into some further information with regards to other knights that I believe we can name. I have even had to yesterday go out and buy a whiteboard because I have a diagram that I need to show you that's been given to me by Metatron with regards to how these knights operate and the different spheres of influence that are around them. So we'll come to that later. I'm also going to be looking at the energy of Merlin. We're going to be weaving in all sorts of different things, looking at some more of the cards from the Arthurian tarot and Art Through the Eyes of the Soul Oracle. And I'm also going to be talking about what actually do we mean by a knight? What does that even mean? Because it isn't to do with being knighted in terms of the King's Honours list or the former Queen's Honours list. I mean, they might be, but that's not really what I'm talking about. These are people that are walking amongst us from different strata of society. Some are noblemen, from nobility, and some are just people who have, come up from the streets, as it were, and are proud of that. And that's what William wants. He wants many different stratas of society around his round table, different representations of everyone, basically. So I'll explain all about that as well. But before we get to it, let's just do a summary of where we'd got to. So if you want to watch part 1 without me spoiling some of the surprises for you, just switch off or scroll. No, don't switch off, just scroll on 2 minutes and then we'll be into the new stuff. So in part 1, we looked at who some of these knights I believe are, and we were naming Princess Anne, Earl Spencer, Zara Phillips, Johnny Thompson, Mike Tyndall. We talked about Harry and the situation with Harry in terms of would he be a knight, would he not be a knight? I'm not going to go back over that. Look back at the last video. We also obviously mentioned William and why I believe that he's carrying the Arthurian energy. I talked about what Arthurian energy is. Some people are confused and not necessarily understanding the finer dynamics of energy at play, which isn't necessarily that Arthur comes back just as one person. The Arthur energy is a template, very much like Christ consciousness is a template which people carry. But in any one generation, in any one lifetime, there's often a person or a number of people that carry it to lead others, to remind them what it is. Okay, so we talked about that as well. We ended on a bit of a cliffhanger, as some of you were saying. I pulled out the Lady of the Lake card with regards to Princess Diana and Excalibur when I was talking about Earl Spencer. And yes, the page I found on Instagram is Earl Spencer's page. I'm now following him and he looks brilliant. He just feels as though he's into so many interesting things, very open-minded. I'm going to start with him again in a moment because I want to remind you of some of the words that he said at Princess Diana's funeral, which are very relevant to being one of the modern day knights. And I think that's sort of where we'd got to. But anyway, we're going to carry on now. I have to say that I knew I was going to be recording this video today on Monday. Last night, if you're in the UK, you can vouch for me that I'm not making this stuff up, because sometimes you just think, my God, I can't believe this. That when you're in flow, the wave of synchronicities are just mind-blowing. So I didn't go out yesterday. It was a pretty horrible rainy day. You would think, well, what sort of signs are you going to get coming in externally if you're just sitting in your lounge? Last night on the TV, many of us Brits of a certain age, maybe younger, there are two programmes that people watch back to back. One is Country File and the other is Antiques Roadshow. On Country File, they just happened to be reporting from Tintagel Castle, which is a known King Arthur haunt. Okay, may very well have been the castle, although there are other castles also attributed to Arthur's court dotted around the UK. But yes, we were actually seeing footage from Tintagel Castle. So I thought, interesting, of all days to be reporting from there. You know, we're doing it today, are we? And then in Antiques Roadshow, I wasn't really watching it, but it's a show, obviously, where people bring in their antiques and they get them valued. And it's just Sunday night entertainment, really. People watch it here. And my ears pricked up because I think it was a picture of something. I wasn't really paying close attention, but what I did hear was somebody said, well, where did you get this piece of art? And they said, oh, we got it at some sort of fair or exhibition or show at Althorpe, Earl Spencer's estate. So, oh yes, and then the other thing that happened in that was there was another thing within Antiques Roadshow. Again, my ears pricked up. I think, again, it was a picture. It could have even been the same one, where I was sitting in front of the TV actually doing the thumbnail for this video, just to try and get ahead of myself. And the thumbnail says something along the lines of Return of the Knights of the Round Table. And I had just written, who are they? And as I wrote, who are they? The television and the programme basically said, yeah, he was the David Beckham of his day. It was talking about some footballer in this photograph. And David Beckham is one of the people I am going to talk about. And to be honest, he was on the tip of my tongue in the last video, but I wasn't 100% sure and I wanted further confirmation. I got it over the weekend, but equally, a lot of you were also piecing together the jigsaw and saying, hold on a minute, what about Beckham? I'm going to talk about David Beckham, definitely. And a few other maybe quite surprising names in a moment. The other thing that is just interesting in terms of those of you that have watched my Heart Squad videos of old, where I channel celebrities that have passed over. The first one, obviously she was more than a celebrity, the first person that got me going really with regards to channeling people in that way was Princess Diana. Okay, so Princess Diana was the first to come forward with regards to the Heart Squad. And then I'm pretty sure the next one that I did was George Michael. It was either George Michael or Freddie Mercury. But anyway, over the last week, I've been thinking about the Knights of the Round Table. And George Michael kept coming into my head. And I was thinking, but that doesn't make any sense, because I was thinking too rationally about it. I was thinking it doesn't make any sense because he's in spirit. Well, of course, there are going to be knights in spirit that help the knights that are here in the physical realm incarnate right now. But more than that, woke up this morning to news that King Charles has just released some new coins. The Royal Mint, from time to time, release coins, okay? And, if you're a collector, like you collect stamps, you collect coins, you can buy these special edition coins. There's a George Michael coin that has just been released by the Royal Mint today, and it's called Faith. It's called Faith. And there's 3 of them that you can buy in different colours. These are the different colours. So, yeah, George Michael, 100%. And that song, You Gotta Have Faith. So it feels as though, of course, George and Princess Diana go back a long way and are always mates. But I just couldn't believe that. I thought, my goodness, there is confirmation. Never, ever doubt when you get messages from spirit coming in, even though they seem completely random. they are correct, but also wait for confirmation sometimes before saying things. So George Michael, we're going to put as a spirit knight of old, okay? One thing I will say about knights is, I'm going to talk about the Knight's Code in a moment, but one thing I have observed is that they seem to be very well dressed. I mean, even today I've had to put this jacket on. I really felt as I needed to dress properly for this video. Put a blazer on, Amanda. It seems to be something to do with, it's a bit like the army, I suppose. There's pride in looking good, not vanity, just pride in taking care of yourself, okay? Making sure your boots shine, making sure that your collar's straight, making sure that your tie's just, I can see George Michael doing all that now. He was very proud, not in an egotistical, vain way, but he was proud of his appearance. And a lot of these people that we look at as knights, and David Beckham absolutely will be one as well, they seem to have something about their appearance that is important to them. And okay, sometimes it can tip over into vanity, but there's something deeper there about, there's just something deeper there about appearance. Okay, so straightening my blazer, let's get on to it. I want to start with Earl Spencer because I feel as though I didn't give him due credit at the end of last video because I got so excited about the Diana Lady of the Lake stuff coming forward. One thing I did note, which was interesting, this card, and again, if you watch my first video, you'll understand this reference, the Sleeping Lord, which is Arthur reawakening, okay, at Britain's hour of greatest need. So the Arthurian energy is this sleeping giant, this sleeping lord who awakens when we really need it, okay? But it's card number 20, and that energy of 20 seems important. Charles Spencer, I note, is born on the 20th of May, and I believe his mother and Diana's mother was also born on the 20th. So that's just something I'm going to keep a note of and a check on in terms of, I don't know whether certain things to come might come in on the 20th, that are still to play out. But I'm giving you the 20th for some reason, feels important to all of this. Anyway, Charles Spencer. He also, over the weekend, released the most beautiful photograph, let me get it for you, of the lake at Althorpe. And this was it. He released this is on his Instagram page. That was on the night of the full moon in Virgo, or new moon in Virgo, that we've just had. And I thought that was interesting. We've just been talking about the Lady of the Lake, and there he is. He says, Althorpe's Lake just now, an achingly beautiful frozen February morning. Anyway, he's definitely somebody to check out. Right, I want to just read, not the whole speech. I want to read a couple of paragraphs from his speech that he gave at Princess Diana's funeral that I feel is relevant for the times we're in now and the return of these knights. And also entwined with that, of course, they're returning to help protect, defend William, and for him to be able to fulfill his destiny, carrying the Arthurian energy so that we can follow. Okay, right, these are the bits from his speech. So this is Earl Spencer. She would want us today to pledge ourselves to protecting her beloved boys, and I do so here, Diana, on your behalf. We will not allow them to suffer the anguish that used regularly to drive you to tearful despair. There he's talking about the media attacks and the bringing down of everything good that she tried to do and she tried to touch. Let's go on. And beyond that, on behalf of your mother and sisters, I pledge that we, your blood family, will do all we can to continue the imaginative way in which you were steering these two exceptional men, so that their souls are not simply immersed in duty and tradition, but can sing. Before I go on with what his words are, if you've watched video 1, I was talking about William carries the duty template. Harry's got a freedom template. What would happen if we were able to merge both of those templates? to be able to do our duty, but also to feel free. In many ways, Earl Spencer, all those years ago, was saying that. Let me repeat. We will do all we can to continue the imaginative way in which you were steering these two exceptional men so that their souls are not simply immersed in duty and tradition, but can sing openly as you planned. We fully respect the heritage that they have been born into and will always encourage them in their royal role. But we, like you, recognise the need for them to experience as many different aspects of life as possible, to arm them spiritually and emotionally for the years ahead. I know that you would have expected nothing less from us. I think those words are just so relevant to what the work we're doing here now. Earl Spencer, absolutely one of the knights, and I would say one of the senior knights, okay? Remember, night, holding the energy of night in the way that I am describing it in this series of videos is an energetic thing. This guy obviously has a title, okay, but it's not that I'm talking about. It's an energetic space that he's holding as one of the 12 knights. Also, very quickly before we move on to the next knight, I just had a little look at his ancestry, because many people talk about the Spencer line of being almost more royal than the royal line. Okay, certainly there are many links to kings of old with the Spencers. One of you put a really interesting comment up as well, which was saying there's like a karmic ancestral wound that William and Harry need to heal between the Spencers and the Windsors. Harry might be more Spencer. That's right. William might be more Windsor. So in this generation, the brothers can heal something that went on long, long ago before they were born. Because Charles Spencer and Princess Diana are linked by ancestry to Mary Queen of Scots. And I also read that they've descended from King Charles II. Maybe other kings as well. Also read that their ancestry also links back to Winston Churchill. That is really interesting also, because if you think about Arthurian energy coming in, not necessarily just in one person, but in many people who are leaders at a particular pivotal time in history, most people would agree that Winston Churchill was the one who stood up at the time of World War II. So that's Earl Spencer, giving him respect. Before we go on, I feel as I'd like to say one thing about why we're even doing this, okay? Because I asked that question, even though it's interesting and I know people are enjoying it. It was like, at a deeper level, why am I being asked to do this? Why are you being asked to participate? Why are you part of this? Why are we as a community looking at this when there's so many other things going on in the world? I know that. Why? So I asked the cards and I got a very clear answer over the weekend. Why are we doing this? I got two cards. I went to the Arthurian Tarot. The first one is, and I'm going to read the description, Stone 5. This is where energetically the collective is right now with regards to Arthurian energy, bringing back that template. Stone 5 is about, it says, in a barren country, a standing stone is seen through a blizzard. And there were times on the quest when the very elements seemed to oppose the seekers. They travelled through lands that were often barren and desolate, by roads long forgotten, where habitations were few and far between. It's to do with adversity, strain, barren prospects, loneliness, destitution, loss of home or means. So it's a feeling of hopelessness. And I think where many are in the world at the moment, that is true. It's like everything's just falling apart, feel completely lost. You know, where are our heroes? Where are our leaders? Where is heart consciousness? Where is it? Why are we doing this work? Because that's where we are as a world at the moment. The world doesn't even know that it needs this return of Arthurian energy, Camelot. The card that came next was Spear Hallow. Spear Hallow, this is us. This is what we are doing. It says, from deep cracks in the earth, sheets of fire flame up. The spear, which both heals and wounds, rises up with great force and power. The spear which heals and wounds is the prime implement, which both causes and heals the wasteland, depending upon who wields it. When it is touched to the wounded king's wounds, health enters both king and land. So it's to do with innovation, purpose, birth, the faculty of intuition, inspiration, energy, and it's the healing of all that is corrupt. I mean, wow. That's why this work is important. That's why you've tuned into this video. That's why I'm being asked to do this work. We're in a wasteland. As I said in my previous video, a lot of leaders of light are being relentlessly attacked. A lot of misinformation, disinformation out there, and people just believe what they want to believe. William is just another example of that. Not saying, though, he doesn't have feet of clay. All of these knights have feet of clay. If you look back at the traditions, the legends, none of them were perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But they are helping us to aspire to a higher ideal, and very akin to Christ consciousness, which links into it, and the Holy Grail. There is this energy of always needing and asking oneself and others to get back on the horse and try again. Okay. I'd like to now, I've got lots of notes, guys, I've got lots of notes. I'd like to now talk about what nights are. Oh, I must just tell you this as well. This also, why are we doing this? Because I had a moment over the weekend, why am I doing this? Even though it's interesting. And I was reminded of all these different things. And I've said it before in another video that if I was a boy, I was going to be called Percival, which seems very random, I know. Percival was one of the knights of the Round Table. I'm not saying I am Percival. I'm saying I probably hold a fractal of that energy. Of all the knights, if you actually really look into their history and what they stood for, and Percival was said to be the one that held the Holy Grail, found the Holy Grail. Come to that in a moment. But of all the different knights, there will be one that you might resonate with more, and that's maybe the fractal that you carry, as well as Arthur. So I was reminded about the Percival link. And there is a card that talks about Percival within the Arthurian tarot, and it's this one. It's the Spiral Tower. And obviously it represents Glastonbury Tor, and it represents the dismantling of the old for the new to arise, and the crystalline Tor that actually is still there and can be seen in the etheric, but not necessarily in the physical. And I have always known, if you are a knight of old, because I believe I was a knight of old, and this also links into Knights Templar as well, there have been many battles across this land that we might have participated in. And I've always had an aversion to Glastonbury, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I've been many times. I've run a workshop in Glastonbury, which was lovely, but I've never felt comfortable in Glastonbury, to the point that, believe it or not, even though I live relatively near, a couple of hours away, I've never climbed the Tor. Not because I'm lazy, not because I don't want, well, no, because I didn't want to. It was like it was a very instinctive, real feeling I got, which is like, don't go back up there. So I know that I probably died up there. And yes, I will go back at some point. But again, these places that we sometimes have resistance to, or that we love and that we're drawn to, there's a past life memory there, okay? So something with Percival and the Tor and Glastonbury, where I've got a wound. I mean, I'm Metatron saying you've literally got a wound. You literally got a wound in your thigh or your hip or something, leg area, he's saying, okay? A mortal wound. You took a mortal wound upon that mound. And it's like your body, even though you've healed it in the astral, Your physical body still remembers it, if that makes any sense. Anyhow, let's not get too much off point. But the other thing I did want to say, because I think this is interesting, is that Albion, because the whole thing about King Arthur is that he will return when Britain needs him most. But the word, one of the oldest words for Great Britain, an alternative word often linked into Arthurian energy, is Albion, the return to Albion, okay? And Albion means white land. Now, that isn't to do with colour of skin. It's to do with the White Cliffs of Dover. We are an island race. When you come to the UK and you come up through the Channel, the English Channel, up via, as they would in the old days, up through Europe, the first thing they would have seen would have been the White Cliffs of Dover. So Albion actually refers to the chalk cliffs of Dover. Now, this next thing is going to blow your mind, because to be honest, even for me, this is random. I told you I was adopted, yeah? I don't know no, I'm not adopted. My mother was adopted. Sorry, I'm not adopted. My mother was adopted. So my mother has never known her blood family. Although my brother, through DNA testing, managed to trace it last year. That there is a living relative in Australia who my brother managed to get hold of and talk to, and who remembered my mother's mother. And one of the things she said to me was, she said, my grandmother was one of the best friends of Vera Lynn before my grandmother got married. I think they lost contact. But as a younger woman, Vera Lynn and my grandmother were very good friends. Vera Lynn, her famous song is The White Cliffs of Dover. Yeah. Goosebumps? Got goosebumps yet? You're going to get lots of goosebumps through this video. I'm just going to read you the lyrics to The White Cliffs of Dover. The White Cliffs of Dover is a reference to Albion. Albion is a reference to King Arthur. This is the lyrics to the song. There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover. Tomorrow just you wait and see. There'll be love and laughter and peace ever after. Tomorrow when the world is free. The shepherd will tend his sheep. The valley will bloom again. And Jimmy will go to sleep in his own little room again. There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover. Tomorrow, just you wait and see. Obviously, it was a song during World War II. It was about hope. And I think this work that I'm being asked to do here is about hope, actually. I think it's about restoring an energy of hope to people. The other famous song of Vera Lynn's, of course, was We'll Meet Again. And I think there's something in that as well about King Arthur and the return to Albion, the return to Great Britain of this energy. We will meet again. So I'm actually getting all tingly. I'm feeling Vera Lynn in spirit here, and she's wanted me to channel her. I'm not going to do it now. I'll try and make time for that soon. Because there's a link. She's saying, I knew your grandmother. You didn't know your grandmother, but I knew your grandmother. Okay. But Vera Lynn in spirit is another one up there with George Michael and Princess Diana and goodness knows who else, who are helping the return of this. Right. Let's get to some new names, because I think you're all waiting for that. And then I'll round up with what are knights and what's all that about, I think, towards the end. Right, I'm going to bring in I'm also going to talk about America as well. So we've got American followers. Hang on in there. I will get to you. We are going to be talking about JFK Jr. and RFK Jr. as well. Okay, so a few more names. I want to talk about Beckham first. Okay, so David Beckham. I really did nearly say him in the first video, but for some reason I just held off. Wasn't 100% sure. But yeah, Beckham. Now, what I'd forgotten about David Beckham, interestingly, David Beckham, obviously, we're dualistic. He has all sides to him. There's probably a bit of vanity there as well. He has been said to want a proper knighthood, where you're called Sir David, for years. And there was a leaked recording of him a few years ago where he's effing and blinding and saying something along the lines of, what do I effing have to do to get a knighthood? And ever since then, of course, persona non grata, officially, with the Queen anyway. He was never going to be granted a knighthood because you don't bully your way into the knighthood. But he has learnt from that. And again, it's actually something that used to happen in days of old with the knights, that they would do that. I have to show you my whiteboard now before we go any further with David Beckham. I'm just going to move the position of my camera and then we're going to talk. Hold on. Right, hopefully you can see this. Can you see this? Can you see my... You can tell I'm Gen X, forget all the modern technology in terms of software. I've got a whiteboard. It works, okay? Nothing wrong with it. Okay, let's get serious. This is what Metatron showed me in terms of to try to help us understand the way that the knights work and the structure of it. So in the centre, we have Arthur. And I've actually written the heart of Arthur. What that means is that in any one generation or in any one time, there is one person, and this can be replicated in different countries, by the way, I'll come to that in a moment, who represents the Arthurian energy. So we're going to call it the heart of Arthur. So here in GB, I believe it is going to be, in the future, William. He's not yet king, so he isn't yet that, but at some point in the future, he will be and he can be. So we have William there, the heart of Arthur. Around that, we have the 12 knights, because it was always said that there were 12 knights of the Round Table and Arthur. So Arthur makes the 13th figure, okay? And 13 is a very mystical, magical number of mastery. It's actually been twisted and inverted by darker forces to be unlucky, when actually it's the energy of true magic. Think also about Jesus and the 12 disciples. Jesus was the 13th one. So too with Arthur, he's the 13th one, and around him there are 12 brethren. Okay, there are 12 brethren. So we have them represented here with the numbers. And what we're trying to do in this series of videos is basically fill in some of the numbers with who these people may be. And it is only maybe, because of course there is free will, although loose free will I feel with regards to the knights, because I feel as though there's an energy of destiny. And also, we live in uncertain times. Yeah, we live in uncertain times, so it can easily be that if somebody drops out or something happens to them, then they will be replaced. But there's always going to be 12 around Arthur, okay? So that's, I guess, the inner circle. But then we've got this outer circle, and I've written other knights jostling for position and learning. So at any point, there are always going to be other potential energies, other potential knights. And I keep seeing the word jostling. In times of old, it would also have been fencing. And I do believe, and I haven't been able to identify who it is, but I feel as though one of the knights to come might come from the fencing, sporting arena. But anyway, so we've got all these other knights that are jostling for position, trying to get into this inner circle. But this inner circle usually remains pretty tight and pretty true. But this is also a place of learning, this outer circle as well. Now, these circles within circles are affected by external things. Number one is external attack. And this includes the realm of magic. It includes dark magic being targeted into the heart of Arthur, literally. But we have around him the protection, the walls of protection that hopefully can repel that. But it can also be other forms of attack. And in the modern era, it would also be the media. And in particular, it will be social media, something which Arthur of old would never have had to contend with. But absolutely, I would put within external attack here the energy of media and social media, especially, as I said in video 1, the king can't answer back. Okay, so the knights often will defend him on his behalf. So also we have here the enemy within. At any one time, unfortunately, there's usually an enemy within. Ideally, they're kept in the outer layer. Okay, and these are knights that are not proven to be 100% trustworthy. They might prove to be so, but the enemy within is usually within that outer ring. And then the other thing I've put here is external influences, which affect this as well. And this is to do with trends, movements, and events. And they can be seismic events. They can be natural disaster type events. They can be things such as war. They can be such things as pandemic. They can be movements. So all of these are like vibrational frequencies that affect this. And what this has to be is a flexible structure, but also that has rigid spokes within it. Okay. Now, the other thing I'm being told as well is that this template effectively exists in other countries too. And in particular, at the moment, is arising, I'm sure it's arising in many different places, but the one that maybe is most obvious is USA. So we'll talk about that in a moment. Okay, I'm going to move my camera back and you'll be able to see me again. Yeah, so those circles, those different round tables dotted across different countries in the world, we can also think of them as rings of light to take out rings of darkness. Okay, that's really what they are there to do and have done over many millennia. Right, let's get back then to some other knights. We were talking about David Beckham, weren't we? So here he is, and I was saying that, yeah, he had his moment of impatience, of maybe immaturity, spiritual immaturity, showing he wasn't maybe quite ready because he was on that outer ring that I've just showed you. He was one of the knights that was jostling for position. But since then has proven to be a more trustworthy member, and I think is in the inner circle. It is said that he is a friend of Prince William, and he obviously was an England footballer, probably one of the most famous footballers in the world. I always remember years ago, God, I don't know, 25 years ago, longer than that, being in Thailand on holiday, and we were in a bar and somebody came up to me and said, "Do you know David Beckham?" It's just like, if you're British, it's like, do you know David Beckham? He's like iconic. But this is a picture of him queuing to see the Queen's coffin when she died. And you may or may not know, or you may or may not remember, that David Beckham was one of the people that queued. I mean, there were so many people that queued to see the Queen's coffin when it was put in, you could see it in state before the funeral. He queued for 13 hours. That number again, 13 hours he queued. It's documented, it's on film. He didn't try to jump the queue. He didn't do what other people did, which is like, "Don't you know who I am? Can you please get me into the queue, the top of the queue, because I haven't really got time. I'm just flying in." No, none of that. He queued with normal people, everyday people, for 13 hours to pay his respects to the Queen. And he looked very, very dapper as well, dressed as you would expect David Beckham to be dressed. And I just thought that was very symbolic more than anything else. So, and he seems to be one of the knights that represents the fact that you have to earn it. You have to earn it. Again, here is somebody who grew up with, humble roots, not born with a silver spoon in his mouth, not from nobility, but somebody who has, through talent, through skill, managed to achieve great things in his life. And the other thing I thought was interesting about when he queued for 13 hours to pay his respects to the Queen is that he did so alone. There's this thing about, and I talked about it at the end of last video, about it's not so much about the wives and the families. I mean, obviously they're involved in it, but this is a calling of brotherhood. Victoria wasn't there queuing for 13 hours. His children weren't there queuing for 13 hours. He was there on his own. This was a call of brotherhood. And there he was, queuing for 13 hours. David Beckham, absolutely, I feel, is one. Right, who else have I got? I've got a few other people that you suggested. Because one thing I think is that the knights, and remember this is energies that are supporting him. They're not necessarily literally sitting around a round table in Buckingham Palace, none of that. The knights that they're going to be called, they're going to be called for particular purposes and causes. So I don't know what Beckham and William might be involved in already, but there will be some cause that unites them. It could be sport, I don't know. But another suggestion that came up from quite a few of you, and I mean, does this guy not look like a knight? I think I did mention Stephen Bartlett, actually, in my last video, I did. But I didn't actually cite him as one of the knights. But, I mean, if that guy doesn't look like a knight, I don't know who does, to be perfectly honest. And again, humble beginnings, humble roots. His purpose, it feels as though it's linked into one of the closest causes to William's heart, which is homelessness. And William has said that is the one thing that he, there are many things he stands for, but to try to bring an end to homelessness, which feels an impossible task, to be honest. But again, we remember the pictures of him visiting homeless shelters with his mother when he was a little boy. And it obviously had a deep impact on him, and I'm sure Harry as well. But anyway, he teamed up with Stephen Bartlett. And I want to just read you, hopefully I screenshotted it, what Stephen Bartlett said with regards to the day that he met William. I'm just going to have to find it. I found it. We all know who Stephen Bartlett is, hopefully. He's got a YouTube channel called Diary of a CEO. He's also on Dragon's Den. Interesting, I nearly said Dragon's Men. Did you see? I was just about to say Dragon's Men. Oh, how funny is that? But obviously, his role, as well as working with William, linked into homelessness charities, and also I think it's to do with rehabilitation of people that have offended, getting them back into work. He's also a great networker, and he's very media savvy. But yeah, this is what he wrote when he met William, and it was actually in my hometown. This was from last year. He says, "Today was surreal. Prince William's team asked me to spend the day with him, visiting businesses in the south of England that are doing work to end homelessness and to partner with him and his foundation, Homewoods UK, to work towards ending homelessness in the UK." So he says, "I was lucky enough to have a few moments to ask the future king some questions on his own personal motivations and how he manages his time." And then these are Stephen's very words. He says, "Myself and Prince William then hosted a business round table with a group of local business leaders about how they could work to hire more homeless individuals into their organisation. This is just the beginning of a big piece of work we're planning to do together." And then he said, side note, "If you had told me as a kid that I would be spending the day with Prince William, the future king, never have believed you. I grew up with a Nigerian mother and an English dad who both adore the royal family. One of my earliest memories is watching my mum and dad cry when Diana died. William has a wonderful way with people, and he was authentically kind, both on and off camera today. Thank you to whatever force in the universe put me here today. I'm so grateful and a little confused. A day I'm sure I'll tell my kids about." Well, Stephen, if you ever watch this, I think you're going to have many more days like that. I love the fact that he said, whatever force put me in front of William today. And he also talks about a round table. So Stephen Bartlett, I'm putting him as one of the 12 as well. One of the, feels as though that's right. Wanted to, who have we got next? So we've done Beckham, we've done Stephen. Let's do a bit of RFK Jr. Now, this is obviously linked into an American round circle, but remember that Camelot is bigger than any one country. Camelot, Arthurian energy, what it stands for, principles of love, forgiveness, heart-centered consciousness, very tied into Christ consciousness, is something that doesn't just exist in the UK, it exists in other countries. Of course it does. I mean, I'm a little bit, I can't quite get over this one. RFK Jr. over the weekend, around the time that my video dropped, put up this poster of himself for sale in an auction. If you go to his website, Kennedy24, one of you alerted me to this. He was doing some sort of auction to raise money for funds for his campaign. I think this was going for £5,000. That was where the bid was at. Whether it's sold or not, I don't know. I just printed it out. But it's obviously got him depicted as a knight of, well, he's basically taking Excalibur out of the rock. I know, you can't make this stuff up, can you? We have the White House in the distance. We have Excalibur. We have the owl. But at the bottom it says, "Give me a sword and some ground to stand on, and I will give your country back to you." At his feet, there is a snake. There is a tortoise, there is a fox, and obviously there's the owl. Okay, so again, here is somebody tapping into the energy we're talking about, okay? Tapping into the Camelot return. This is worldwide. This is circles being activated, and his sword says truth and freedom. He's another person who is relentlessly attacked. You know, I had the misfortune to look at some American reader the other day, not the lovely guy I mentioned recently, but no, this was somebody else who does political tarot, and they were looking at RFK Jr. I couldn't believe how unpleasant people were in the comments about him. I mean, if you don't like him, fair enough, you don't have to vote for him. But it was so infantile, the abuse that this guy was getting just for standing up for something that he believes in. I thought it was appalling. I like him personally. But anyway, there we are. We've got RFK Jr. So I think I will just pull a couple of cards for RFK Jr. So let's do that. I've put the whole deck back together. This is the Art Through the Eyes of the Soul Oracle. I'm not going to spend a long time on this because I do plan to do a video on him solo at some point soon, to do a follow-up on the one that I've done previously a few months ago. But anyway, let's just have a look at how he's looking, linked into what we're talking about in this video. So the energy of Camelot, return of Arthurian legend and template, RFK Jr. Let's have one card from this deck, please. RFK Jr. I'm struggling to get my hands around the whole deck. So there's something about he doesn't have enough. Okay, there's a card just flipped out. He doesn't have enough hands on deck, or it's as though the energy is almost too big for him to be able to get his hands onto it completely. That might just be a temporary thing, I don't know, but I'm really just suddenly aware of my hands when I'm linking into his energy. So I don't know what that means. Let's see what cards just flipped out of the deck for him. We've got a new door is opening, step over the threshold, and look at that. Look what she's got on her hand. Can you see that? It's a hawk or falcon. It's a bird anyway. He is a falconer, isn't he? Yeah, and actually, I was telling you last night that I was watching the television programme from Tintagel Castle. There was also a part of that programme which was somebody who was a falconer, and he was trying to train somebody to get the bird to come back to the hand. So that's definitely him. Let's see what this card then says in relation to him. Let me just put my glasses on. Where's my book? So, a new door is opening, step over the threshold. Look at that. Can you see the kingdom? It's almost like there's a kingdom there in violet. And where is the picture that I showed you a moment ago of him? Okay, it's not in violet, but can you see it's like the White House is there in a sort of ethereal mist. Here we have got a building in an ethereal mist in violet and pink. Right, let's see what the card says. A new door is opening, step over a threshold. Let me just find the correct page. Here we go. It's to do with Libus, prophetess of Prague. Doors open to allow us the opportunity to reach our fullest potential. Do not fear unknown territory. So it says in the 8th century, the Druid priestess Libus foresaw Prague in a mystical trance. It is said this took place on the hill of her castle, a magical site that has been occupied since 3000 BC. She saw a castle whose renown touches the heavens, its boundaries set by the Vlatva's waves. In this place would be a man constructing a prah, P-R-A-H. This is translated as threshold, but is also known to be a hollow dug in the centre of European cities to connect them to the other world. There would then be a prah ritual performed by a druid priest, aligning it to the 4 directions. This is how Prah or Prague got its name. So it's linked into a dynasty of Czech kings and represents the last of the Celtic matriarchal society. On her shoulder is a falcon, a symbol of Czech gymnastics, strength and beauty. Her brooch commemorates entrance into the EU, which was a step over the unknown threshold for the country itself. Well, I don't know what his stance is on the EU or Europe, but I do pick up that he has, if he hasn't already, he's going to have good, strong European links. He's going to make allies within Europe. He's going to realise that America can't be isolationist and that it needs Europe and Europe needs it. He's going to expand the reach, the American reach, into the wider world once again, for America to have its place respected in other parts of the world again, more than it has at the moment. So that's an interesting card for him. We've also got guard and protect the sacred waters of life on the bottom of the deck. Let's just go to the Arthurian tarot deck for him as well, and let's just see what we get. Okay, so that's definitely him though, isn't it, with the falcon? Can't make this stuff up. Okay, I wonder if he's got any links to Prague. I'd love to go to Prague. Never been. Very historic, beautiful city. Interesting. Hello to any Czech followers. Have I got any Czech followers? If I have, put your hands in the air. Right, RFK Jr. What is there to say at the moment with regards to him and this Arthurian energy? Where does he fit? We've got the Lady of the Lake. That was Diana in the previous reading I did. He has the Lady of the Lake card. That's the card with Excalibur, the sword. This picture of him, like him or love him, I'm just reading the cards. Don't come for me, don't attack me. He has got a sword. He's trying to pull it out of the stone. We have got Lady of the Lake. So in my first video, I was saying William, the Lady of the Lake, Diana, is guarding Excalibur. William is going to be the one that's able to pull the sword out of the stone. We've got a very similar message here for RFK to create a similar circle in USA. I just don't know whether it's now, but it feels as though it's not that far off. I mean, would the next election be? 2028? And we've got Stone Hallow. So we've got a checkerboard there. So he has to play the game. He has to maybe play a waiting game. Let's have a look at what Stone Hallow means, because I have no idea with regards to this particular deck. Stone Hallow. Okay, so RFK Jr. In case I said JFK Jr., this is RFK Jr. So it says, in the earth of an underground cavern, the board glows with power. The board was one of the prime treasures of the island of Britain. Whoever possessed it or played upon it was likewise part of the archetypal movements within the land itself. It's to do with wisdom, spiritual treasures, consolidation and establishment, attainment, fulfillment, prosperity, the faculty of sensation or instinct and mother wit. To me, this is just saying he is part of the checkerboard. He's part of the game in returning a Camelot energy to the world. Whether he does that one day sitting in the seat of power within the White House, or whether he does that in another way, I don't know. He's obviously influential anyway, whether he gets into power or whether he doesn't. But very interesting cards for him. We've also got the Grail Queen. I just took one more from the top of the deck. The Grail Queen. That feels as though that must be his wife, I'm assuming. He's got powerful women around him. We've got the Lady of the Lake, we've got the Grail Queen, and we've also got this representation of the feminine as well. I think women like him. I think he appeals to women. And we've got the energy of three women again. Three women. Going back to Charles Spencer, he's got three sisters. There's something about the power of three. So we're seeing that one of these, the Grail Queen, could be his mother in spirit. Is she in spirit? Sorry, I'm not very good on Kennedy politics and Kennedy history. JFK's wife, Caroline Kennedy. Is it Caroline? No, not Caroline. Jacqueline Kennedy. Apologies to my American followers. Jacqueline Kennedy. I think she's dead. I think she must be dead. I can't check. I haven't got my phone to hand. Yeah, she must be dead. So that feels as though it's Jacqueline Kennedy in spirit. Oh, and this could be Carolyn Bissett Kennedy in spirit. So that's two in spirit. And then we've got Diana. So we've got Jacqueline Kennedy. We've got Carolyn Bissett Kennedy, and we've got Diana there for RFK Jr. Whether he gets in or not is a completely different matter. I think he needs another 5 years personally, but we'll see. I haven't got time to do it in this video, but if you go back, I have channeled JFK Jr. before, and there are two channelings for my American audience. If you haven't seen them, you might like to look back on. And in them, I was talking about the knights of old and Carolyn Bissett Kennedy. I was talking about the wounded divine feminine. I was using the same deck that we've been using today. I actually felt that JFK Jr. was more Percival, and I was feeling that Lancelot or Galahad could well have been JFK himself, the father. But anyway, you can look back on that. But yeah, I just had to bring this. I had to bring that in because it literally, he was selling that on 23rd, 24th. I'm sure my video dropped on the 23rd. So mind-blowing stuff. Right, who else? Who else has knights? Right, two more photographs to show you. I wanted to show you that this lady, this is Sophie, Countess of Wessex. Sophie is married to Prince Edward. Prince Edward, of course, is the youngest son of the Queen. And the only reason I'm not including Edward as one of the knights is not because he's not worthy to be a knight, not because he hasn't proven his loyalty and all of that, and not because I don't believe he would do his utmost best to do whatever he can. I just don't think he's looking particularly well recently, and I hope he's okay. I haven't read on him, but I feel as though Sophie has a lot of strength. And of course, Sophie as a name means wisdom. And she feels as though she holds a lot of light. She's been very under the radar. She again is what we would call a commoner. I know it's an awful term, but she's not of noble blood. She's just a member of the middle class who married a prince, and she's not really put a foot wrong since she came onto the public stage a few decades ago. And since the Queen died, she seems to have risen in prominence and power. And I feel, again, the whole Arthurian legend also links into the energy of Mary Magdalene. And I feel as though there's a Mary Magdalene link with Sophie. And why I say that is because, not just because she's a woman, it's got something to do with blood. I'm talking about one of my links with Mary Magdalene, put it this way, whenever I've channeled Mary Magdalene, some of the work I've done with her has been womb work, and it's also been work that's been linked into menstruation. There's always been some sort of flow, for want of a pun, flow linked into the blood, women's blood, and the power of women's blood, the power of menstruation. And indeed, it's a bit personal really, but one of the last times I actually really channeled Mary, I had been in menopause for, I don't know, maybe a year, or pre-menopause for a year, hadn't had periods. Sorry, I know it's a lot of detail, but you need to understand why I'm about to talk about Sophie. My menstruation had stopped for about a year, and then I channeled Mary again, and she gave me one last period. Literally, the weekend I channeled her, I started to bleed again. And I knew it was a gift from her for all sorts of reasons, just to experience it for one last time. Because believe it or not, when it ends, you actually miss it. I genuinely miss it for all sorts of reasons. So for me, Mary Magdalene and blood and menstruation and fertility and childbirth and then the latter stages of being a woman, menopause, it's all linked. And one of the things about Sophie is she's had 2 children, but her first daughter, Lady Louise, nearly died, and Sophie nearly died as well, giving birth to her. Sophie had a placental abruption, and she lost a lot of blood to the point where she nearly died. And there's something here, there's just something in that I feel links to Mary, as though Mary Magdalene was around her, helped her to heal, is around her daughter as well, Lady Louise, I think was a little bit damaged by the birth. So Sophie feels as though she's carrying a very different energy from all the others. It feels very soft, but there's also this energy of like the lioness. It's like the lioness who will do everything to protect the cub. Or the cubs. So she has a motherly energy to her, not just because she's a mother. You can be a mother but not be very maternal. There's a maternalness here, but there's also a fierce tigress. It's like a tigress who will protect the crown, who will protect what it stands for, who won't stand for any nonsense. So I'm bringing Sophie in. And the other thing that's unusual, you remember at the beginning of this video I was talking about the number 20, and Earl Spencer was born on the 20th, his mother was born on the 20th, Sophie was born on the 20th. She was born on the 20th of January, I believe, 1965. So again, that number 20 with her links me to the knights. And remember, knights can be male or female, but to put it this way, so far she feels the most feminine woman, with no disrespect to the other ladies that I've mentioned. She feels like a girly girl, but she is quite tigress as well. So I'm putting I even said I'm putting Mary there. I was going to say I'm putting Sophie there. Right, done these people. Anybody else that I wanted to mention in this video? Some people were talking about Cate Blanchett. I haven't really tuned into her very much, but she would figure, I guess, as being linked into a cause. So whether she's in a circle, one of those 12, or one of the outer circle, jostling for position, I don't know. But she ties into William via the earth shot, the environmental causes. I did also just want to give a nod to Zara Tindall. I did mention Zara in the first video. Here's a picture of her with William. It strikes me that all of these women around this round table, they've all got a similar look. Kate Blanchett, it's not just that they're blonde, there's something about the eyes and the nose. It feels quite, again, I'm not meaning to be disrespectful, but quite hawk-like. Eagle, maybe eagle. See what I mean? It's like there's a very prominent nose and a very prominent eyes. There's something there in that. I saw it in John Denver as well. So I've got John Denver coming in now in spirit as well. I called him the Heart Whisperer. Anyway, Zara Phillips, I feel, is there. Right. Okay, I'm going to round up now by talking a little bit about... I've talked about the fact that I believe Camelot is across all countries. I've talked about the rings of light. Talked about the fact that knights come from humble and noble backgrounds. They also will come, because remember, this table is incomplete because William is not yet king. This is just in the ethers. I'm just tuning into something in the ethers that hasn't yet happened. But eventually, all of the knights will be of mixed heritage, mixed race, mixed nationality in terms of maybe where they come from. They're not all going to be English born and bred, and multi-faith, basically multi-faith, multi-ethnicity, multi-gender, multi-age. There's going to be lots of different faces around the table. I mean, somebody was saying about Tom Cruise, and, you know, Tom Cruise is around William a lot, but I think he's one of the knights that are jostling for position. But, you know, defender of all faiths, which is what I think Charles said when he became king, I don't think it includes Scientology. I'm sorry, but I just don't. So unless Tom dropped the Scientology, I don't see him being part of that inner circle as much as he'd like to be. Might be wrong, but can't quite see it at the moment. I've also written down sleeper cells, because a lot of these people, they're like sleeper cells. They don't even realise. That's what I felt when I looked at Beckham, you know, queuing for 13 hours and standing there. He was very emotional. It was like, I mean, I'm sure he had a reason why he was there. He wanted to be there because he wanted to honour the Queen's death, but it was more than that. It's like a sleeper cell. It's like something stirs them into action. Something awakens them, very much like that sleeping Lord card that we had, okay? It also feels as though a lot of the knights have a strong sporting heritage. So we have one that's come from rugby, Mike Tindall, one that's come from football, David Beckham. I feel as though there's one that's going to come from fencing, but I don't know who that is. And fencing is a very old sport, really. I mean, I do actually know somebody that does it, a lady who does it. She's my age, but that's the only person I've ever met in my whole life who does it. And even that was a bit random. I did try and look at anybody around the royal family who does fencing, and I found some reference to the fact that William has learnt it, but I couldn't find any photographs of him. So I really don't know who that is, but I keep being pulled to fencing. And of course, riding with Zara Phillips and Anne, both Olympic champions in terms of riding horses. So that thing about strong sporting heritage seems to be linked into discipline and staying the course with something, being dedicated to something, being top of your field in something. And, you know, somebody like Stephen Bartlett, even though it's not sporting, I would include him in that because he's top of his field in something else in terms of media and networking and interviewing. He's definitely a networker. I feel he's a very important networker. So, yeah. Okay, let's end on Merlin then, what I want to say about Merlin. Okay, let's get the Merlin spray out. Well, let's just spray Merlin. Okay, this is a Merlin spray. It says Connection and Mentorship Ascended Master Spray. So you may or may not know, but of course, Merlin and King Arthur go sort of hand in hand. When, at the end of last video, I pulled a card out for who are the guides that are around William, we got Ganesh, we've talked about that, but we also got Saint Germain. And quite a few of you are saying, and you're right to say, that, of course, Saint Germain is very linked into the energy of Merlin. Some people say that Saint Germain was an incarnation or incarnated form of Merlin. So there we have one of the guides around William, Saint Germain, aka Merlin. Now, I haven't written much about Merlin yet, but this is what is coming through to me. What I've written down is that when people say, who is Merlin? Number one, I want to say, we are Merlin, okay? We are Merlin, in the same way that we can carry the Arthurian energy, albeit somebody might lead it. We can all carry the Arthurian energy to a lesser or greater degree. So too can we carry the energy of Merlin. I realised that leading up to doing this work, I was carrying more and more of the Merlin energy myself. Those of you that follow me on my other social media channels know that last week, before I did this first video, I was talking about I'd had a dream and I'd had a dragon that had come to me and had tied itself around my arm, literally wrapped itself around my arm like it was my dragon. It was a green dragon. It was when I was doing the Julian Assange work, actually. But I also was feeling I was stepping more into that energy of Merlin throughout the last previous week. And I think it's all leading to where we are now, that we are being asked to hold the template more of Merlin, that we are Merlin, that Merlin is an aspect of us. Okay, so that's the first thing to say, and that's about, do you believe in magic? Do you believe in the power of magic? Do you, or are you just sinking into an energy of despondency, lack of hope, because you forgot the power and the ability that you have within yourself to be the magician, to literally be the magician? Okay, we've got the card of the magician here from the Knights Templar, that you are that, So number one, I feel as though Merlin is all of us that are willing this return of Camelot back. In fact, it's us that have called it back. Okay, is what I'm hearing. It's us that have called it back. It's us that have reactivated the sleeping giant energy, and will do in the future when he becomes king. But equally, it's us that are reawakening this energy of magic and Merlin within ourself and within the land, because Merlin lives within the land and he lives within us, and he lives within each generation. But the one thing about Arthur and Merlin is that the most potent form of Merlin in a body, let's put it that way, needs to remain hidden. It can't come out and say, hey, look, over here, or be identified in any way, or even for there to be much speculation that's Merlin over there, or that's the person that leads the Merlin energy. By nature, it has to go, I'm being shown the energy of walking down a street unnoticed, almost as though it's the person that you would least expect it to be. It is, okay? Because any overt display of ability to do magic could be targeted by the dark to thwart it. So Merlin, in its truest state, in its purest state, knows that it needs to remain to a degree hidden, if not veiled, but can be found by those with eyes to see and with those with hearts that are pure. Okay, so it's very much hidden from view, hidden in plain sight from those that would seek to bring it down, to derail it. It's got this sort of wispy energy where it's able to change form and shape and be in multiple places at any one time. And it's like, I'm here, but no, I'm not, I'm here. It's the realm of magic, okay? Let's see anything else that Merlin wants to say today with regards to this work that we're doing, with regards to William and Merlin and the return of the Round Table. Okay, Merlin is showing me literally right behind William, okay? It's literally like he's shadowing his back. That's an interesting interpretation. So I'm literally seeing him right behind him, almost to the point whereby it's a little bit funny. If William was aware he was there and tried to sort of see him, you know that game children play, which is like, I can't remember what it's called. It's a form of catch where you have to creep up on somebody, and then the trick is that you turn around and you catch them creeping up. But William wouldn't be able to. He can't. Merlin's so quick and so fluid. If William looked, he would be like, What's that? What's that behind me? It's as though he can feel something. It's like, what is that? I can sense something, but I don't know what it is. It's the Merlin energy at his back. It's really quite funny. And I'm being shown again that image of the film we've seen of William on his first outing recently, when he was like not sleeping, he was swaying in public when he was giving out medals. And I said it was like a self-soothing type energy. And it is, but I'm feeling like literally Merlin was there like that. It's like he would have caught him. There's no way that guy would have fallen over or been allowed to fall. Okay, so yeah, interesting. Anything else to say at this point? Okay, I'm being shown the magic that is brewing, but he's saying it's not yet ready. And what he means by that is that it's not quite the hour for this to all spring to life yet. But we know that, don't we? But it's just know that the recipe is being prepared. The ingredients are being sought. The calls are going out. The right people are being silenced as well, I'm hearing. That's interesting. What do you mean by that? The right people are being silenced. It's just like it's like an enemy attack energy. So some of the Merlin energy at the moment is about combating attack. Going back to my chart, that external attack, there's a lot of external attack. So can't fight a war on all fronts. So at the moment, there's a lot of the Merlin energy going into trying to fend off the attack energy on the Arthurian seed that wishes to sprout forth and come again, and will come again. Yeah. Ooh. Okay, shall we end with a card? I haven't really done many cards today, but let's just do that. Let's pull a card from this deck, Art Through the Eyes of the Soul, and see what we get. And then I'm going to love and leave you. How shall we end this video? Yeah, that's a nice one to end it on. I'll put that one on the bottom as well. This one says, become the master you seek. Become the master you seek. So rather than just getting excited about, oh gosh, the return of Arthur in a body and it's William, it's like William's just going to be holding a template. It's a template for us to emulate. Become the master you seek. We've also got the card of be curious, look deeper. Be curious, look deeper. Let's read what it says actually about that card. Become the master you seek. If I've got it to hand. Oh. Okay, become the master you seek. It says, you are a divine being. Internalize this knowledge and allow it to inspire self-confidence and inner strength. What you search for may or may not be what you find. Realization that the power of the universe is within you. It is the fulfillment of the quest. This power is at your command to create and build with, and to find solutions to the most difficult challenges that you encounter. Looking outside of oneself and expecting someone or something to do all the work for you is going against cosmic law. We must all use the gifts we have been given and be actively engaged in developing them in our own life process for other assistance to appear. I think that's spot on. So this isn't about being complacent that Camelot is returning. We don't have to do anything. It's all going to be okay. Hopefully it is all going to be okay. But we have a part to play in it as well. That's why I keep ramming home the message that the Arthurian template is within you, it's within me. The knights are within you, they're within me. Merlin is within you, within me. But we're going to have leaders rising up that remind us of that. William is definitely one of them. Okay, lots of love. I think I will leave it there for now. I think that's enough for part 2. Hope you've enjoyed it. Go and get yourself something to eat and a cuppa, and lots of love, and I'll see you next video. I don't know what we'll be doing, but hopefully it'll be something interesting. Thank you very much. Please like and share the video. Bye-bye for now.